Well, hello friends. Today we are going to be working on the song The Ghost Ship. So I need all of you to take this music out because we're going to be doing some markings in it. You're going to need two things to make these markings. You're going to need a highlighter, any color is fine, whichever color you love the most, and a pencil. Please do not use a pen or a Sharpie to do this, the numbering with, because you're going to hate that Sharpie if you make any kind of mistake, because you might have to go back and erase, I don't know, half of your measure numbers if you use a pen, if you make a mistake. So please make sure that you use a pencil to number all of your measures with, okay? So you're gonna need a highlighter, a pencil, and the ghost ship, okay? So here we go. This is for prima voce. You guys are gonna be learning part 1 throughout the song, so we're gonna mark your music for prima voce, okay? Now, I'm going to readjust my camera so that you can see what I am doing on my desktop here. All right, so here we go. I am going to start by highlighting the part that you're going to be singing. Now let's talk about the music really quickly. You can see that it's set up where I have a stave, and a stave is just a whole section of music. So this line right here that goes all the way down right here, it is connecting all of these parts together. It's connecting part 1, part 2, and the piano part. And we always know the piano part. We can always tell the piano part because it has this fancy little bracket right here on the outside of it. That kind of curvy looking bracket right there. That bracket always denotes the piano part in a piece of vocal music. You can see there's another one right down here. That tells me that this is the piano part. But this line right here it's connecting and creating what's called a stave. It's connecting all these vocal lines and this piano part together. So what that means is that all of this music that you see here, it is all happening simultaneously, is happening at the same time. So the piano is playing an entrance right here. The voices are not singing yet, but the piano is playing an introduction, like happens very frequently in choral music. Then the voices start singing right here at the end of this measure right here. That's where we come in. But all of this music is happening together. Okay, so I'm going to be highlighting part 1. Now, in the beginning of this song, part 1 and part 2, we're all singing the exact same stuff. We're going to ignore the part 1 and part 2, and all of us are going to sing it in unison at the beginning. But let's go ahead and highlight part 1, okay? So I'm going to highlight part 1 like this. And the reason that I'm not highlighting my words is because sometimes words are shared between 2 different vocal lines, so it can get really confusing. If you highlight your staff, you're always going to know that you're in the right part, okay? So highlight your staff. Then we're going to move. We're not going to come down here and read this line. Now we're at the end, so I'm going to come down here to the next line, and I'm on my next stave here. This shows me that my stave, and I'm going to highlight that first line, okay? Now I'm going to turn the page, and I'm going to continue highlighting like that. Here is my stave right here, shows me all of that's together. Highlight line 1, second stave, highlight the top line, third stave, highlight the top line. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the next page. Again, here's my stave. I'm going to highlight the top line, my stave, highlight the top line, stave, highlight the top line. Now you don't have to highlight these stave lines if you don't want to. I'm just doing that to make it easy for you to visualize that all of this block of music is together, this block of music is together, and so on. Okay, let's keep on moving. Now I'm on page 17. Here's my stave, highlight my top line, stave, highlight my top line, stave, highlight my top line, flip over to the next page and do the same again. Now when I get to the middle of the page, there's something special, or I'm sorry, the bottom of the page, I want you to see there's something special that we're gonna see, okay? Now when I get here, I have a special symbol right here. It's 2 dots and 2 lines. This is called a repeat sign, and it's telling me to go back to a part of the music. Now we're lucky in this piece of music because it actually tells us exactly where to go right here. It says to circle A, page 14. That's not usually written in your music for you. It doesn't usually tell you where to go. You just have to go searching for the other repeat sign. But this publisher was really nice and he wrote those instructions in for us. So now we're gonna repeat back before we highlight anything else. So we're gonna go back to the front page. Here's circle A, just like it told us. We're on page 14, just like it told us, okay? This is where we're going back to, and you can see the other repeat sign right here, okay? Now, here's the thing though. We're moving to the second verse, okay? So where we just left off, here's the second verse. The first word of the second verse is 'twas. I'm just gonna write that in right here to help me remember what that word is. Now, so we can see this first line, the whole time, it was just the first verse of the music. So now I'm moving on to the second verse of the music. Do you see this 2 right here? That's just telling me this is the second verse of the music. So you can do one of 2 things. You can highlight this second verse with a different color, or you can do what I'm gonna do, and you can just make the highlighting look a little bit different by zigzagging it. So I'm gonna do this on my second verse. I'm just gonna kind of make little curly lines like that, okay? I'm moving from stave to stave. Now I'm highlighting this second line, which is the second verse. I'm just gonna go throughout, highlighting my second verse, still highlighting my second verse. Still going. Now, when I get here, I'm on page 18. When I get here, I want you to notice I have this bracket right here, and it has a number 1 on the inside of it. That means that everything under this bracket with the 1 in it, that is the first ending. The first ending belongs with the first verse. So we've already done the first verse, and now we're singing the second verse, right? So now we have to skip over the first ending and come right down here to this other bracket that has a 2 inside of it. Since I'm on the second verse, I have to go to the second ending. So I'm gonna skip over the first ending and come straight down here to my second ending, okay? Skip over the first ending that went with the first verse, and I'm gonna go to the second ending because now I'm singing the second verse. And now I'm gonna keep going. Now, here is where we're gonna split things up, and I am going to highlight in 2 different colors because I have 2 classes learning 2 different parts. So if you are in prima voce, which is my first period class, you are gonna continue highlighting part 1, okay? You are part 1. So I'm gonna go through, we're gonna highlight part 1. Forma voce, or my 6th period group, you hang tight because we're gonna go back and highlight your part in a different color. So we've got those 2 pages done. Let's keep moving. Okay, this is prima voce, or my first period. We're highlighting this top line all the way through to the end. All the way through to the end. Okay, now I've highlighted prima voce's part all the way through to the end. Now I'm going to go back to page 19. So 19, forma voce, this is where I told you to hang tight. We're going to come back, so I'm with you now, okay, forma voce. So we're going to highlight your part. So we're going to do the second line because you guys are going to learn the second part 2, or the alto part. So I'm highlighting your part, excuse me, in a different color so it's really easy for you to see where you're supposed to go, okay? So I'm highlighting you in blue. We're just going through, and we're going to highlight the second line on each stave for forma voce. And we're going to do this all the way through to the end. So all of us are going to be singing everything all the way through together on the first and second verse until we get to that second ending. And that's where we split into parts and are no longer singing the whole song in unison, okay? Continue to go all the way through to the end. We're almost done with our highlighting. Last page. There we go. So now we've highlighted the whole thing for both parts. Okay, now time for your pencil. Pick it up. Okay, now we're going to go through and we're going to number all of your measures. Okay. Now, the reason that I have you highlight your part first is because it makes it easier for you to see the breaks in the staves. Okay. So I want you to notice, remember, all of this is happening all at the same time. This is all going to be measure 1 for every part. So I'm going to label it measure 1. Now, you see these lines through here? These are called bar lines, and they separate measures. So these bar lines ended measure 1 and began measure 2. So I'm going to label the next measure 2. Again, we have bar lines separating our measures. Now we are at measure 3, bar lines, measure 4. Now, what I don't want you to do is get to the end of this line and think, okay, now I'm going to come down here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. No, 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 no. Remember, all of this is measure 1. All of this is measure 2, measure 3, measure 4. So when I get to the end of measure 4, I have to come down to the next stave before I can get to measure 5. Okay? So now I'm on measure 5, bar lines, measure 6, bar lines, 7, bar lines, 8, bar lines. Now remember, 5, 6, 7, 8, so I have to turn the page to get to measure 9. Bar line, bar line, bar line. Okay, and you're going to go all the way through the song in this way and label every single measure, every single one of them. Don't skip any of them. Okay, you're going to go all the way through the whole entire song. And when you get to the very end, your last measure should be 116. Okay, you should end up with 116 measures. If you don't wind up with 116 measures, probably one of two things happened. You either skipped over a measure, so you just completely skipped a measure and didn't number it at all, or you just accidentally skipped a number while you were numbering the measures. So for instance, maybe I got to measure 32 at the end of my page here, and then when I skipped over to the next page, I just went to 34 and I skipped over measure 33 altogether. I just skipped the number 33. That's what the most common thing, the most common mistake that's made. But I want you to go through and number every single one of those measures, every single one of them, because during our rehearsals, you're gonna find that I'm gonna call out measure numbers very frequently. So I need you to have all of your measures numbered so that when I call out a measure number, you can turn right to that measure and stay with us during rehearsal. Okay, so for instance, this song has no measures numbered anywhere. Okay, so it's going to be absolutely crucial that you keep these numbers, all of them are numbered, so that we can stay together during rehearsal. Okay, take care of that. Remember, you should wind up with 116 measures when you're finished. Highlight all of those parts so that you can easily locate your line. And remember, when we get here, we've got that repeat sign. We go back to the beginning, and then when we get to the end of this this line right here on page 18, we got to skip over the first ending and go to that second ending. Okay? All right, guys, number your measures, highlight your music, and I will see you next time.